Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktavo, the parent company of GraphicsFlow, SignTracker, Printavo, and Clarity. We're in the UK now. We are going to get into how these products work with other software programs within the Inktavo ecosystem. And I've never done a class like this before. We have many clients that are using GraphicsFlow with their other software platforms, and we've never really sat down and done a class on best practices and how this all works and how the platforms complement each other. And so I wanted to do that today. So I've landed in GraphicsFlow. As most of you are familiar, GraphicsFlow is a platform for managing your graphics and collaborating with your customers. And true to form in today's marketplace, a lot of times our customers don't necessarily understand the human capital that's involved in creating artwork, and that leads to a couple problems. One of the problems is they expect you to jump through hoops creating things for them, but since they don't attach a corresponding dollar value to that human capital, they have a tendency to ask for things that aren't necessarily going to align with your profitability goals. For instance, if you were going to do a job for a singular 18 by 24 Core Plus sign for a booster club, and you had to spend a half an hour or even an hour developing artwork for that, and it was just a singular sign that you're going to bill out at, say, $20, you're probably losing money on that. And so one of the things that we, promote within GraphicsFlow is giving your customers choices. If they want to have fully customized, built out from scratch artwork, we can do that for you, but there's got to be fees and charges associated with that. And one of the challenges that you're always going to run into is our customers don't know what production readiness is. They just think like anything they create on AI or Canva or they grab from the internet is automatically production ready for our processes. Screen printing requires special processes. Embroidery requires digitizing. Wide format digital printing requires having high resolution graphics and specific color models. So, when customers come to us with source artwork that they might have screen grabbed online, actually causes a bigger hassle. And in some cases, you can actually have more work recreating that artwork to be production ready than just creating something from scratch. And so that's where GraphicsFlow fits in, is having that massive library of ready-made designs, clip art, and fonts. And just quick little tour. Most folks are familiar with design ideas. This whole area is very searchable. So if I was looking for a grad banner, I'd just type in grad. All my graduation designs are in here, and I'd probably scroll down and pick a grad banner and hit customize and start customizing. There's over 10,000 production-ready digital art, clip art images in the platform. Everything in the platform is going to be organized by newest first, unless you change the filter results. And so right now you're seeing the new artwork that was just dropped in for June. Oh, that's a nice pattern there. I think that would be very helpful in terms of creating a fill pattern or even the background for a banner. That would be really good. So every month you're getting new clip art, and then there's about 565 fonts that are included, actually 560 fonts that are included with GraphicsFlow. And what you want to do there is just download all the fonts and install them, and they'll be available in all your graphics programs. Key thing to remember is if you're downloading a CorelDRAW formatted file from GraphicsFlow, the font's embedded in the file, so it'll show up whether it's installed or not. But if you are downloading the file in the Illustrator format, the font will need to be installed in your Adobe suite in order to access those fonts. So you don't have to install all the fonts. You could just install the ones you need as you import that design templates. Also, GraphicsFlow is an art storage medium. So everything that I upload into GraphicsFlow, it's creating a preview of that file. It's actually processing that file. So if we upload like a SVG file or PNG, JPEG, EPS file, Adobe Illustrator file, CorelDRAW file, even PDF, it's processing that file as we're uploading it to generate those great looking previews. And that's why the artwork looks so fantastic in GraphicsFlow. Now, something to bear in mind, what you're seeing in the preview is going to be different than what your customer sees. Your customer is going to see a lower resolution version of the preview because we don't want them having a print ready file. So we've actually downsampled the previews when we send out art approvals. So the customer doesn't get a file that is print ready, and that's done intentionally. And it's still a good quality file, looks good on the screen. But if you zoom in, you're going to see quite a bit of artifacting and fuzzy edges and things around, especially bitmap graphics and even vectors for that matter. The core idea here is we've got this massive library of artwork that we're able to access and to create those designs quick and easy without having all the customary expense and time involved in creating something from scratch. We have the ability to store those designs in the cloud or upload our own files and organize them. We can go back and anybody on our team can log in and download these files. You can download them in bulk or one at a time. It's very easy to download. You have the ability to download multiple formats. And then also you have the art portal, and the art portal is where we can send customers to go and search through designs and collaborate. And so this art portal right here is my own art portal that I created as a standalone website, and GraphicsFlow have the ability to go in and customize this. So it's tuned to my colors, my logo, the copy here. I can add sublinks in here. I have a whole bunch of sublinks with different showcases. I have a little help file here. I have a contact form. So if you don't have a website, this can be your website. And the way this portal works is somebody clicks on this design, adds it, and goes to the design request. Files flow right directly back into your GraphicsFlow as a design request. But the main thing I want to do here is I just want to create a design, and I want to show kind of a workflow, how we would take that design across multiple processes and multiple applications. So application number one that we're going to be utilizing today is GraphicsFlow. That is the graphics management art collaboration tool for Inktavo. We're also going to be using SignTracker, which is the sign shop management tool for Inktavo. We're going to be using Printavo, which is the shop management tool primarily for apparel decoration within the Inktavo suite of product. Then we're also going to be using InkSoft, which is our industry-specific e-commerce platform for apparel decoration, promotional products, as well as for sign making. So it all kind of works together. So you kind of got a theme there. We're all things specific to apparel decoration and signage, kind of a synthesis of that. And there's a lot of crossover between those applications as well. So it's not one application does one particular thing. GraphicsFlow is a very handy application for creating signage and for creating artwork for awards, promotional products, as well as wearables. So it's a very flexible platform. And InkSoft, you can sell pretty much anything you want on InkSoft, including signage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a t-shirt graphic, and I'm also going to create a sign for Booster Club. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to click on that design, and we're going to click on customize. And this design, I'm not going to use the artwork colors as is. I'm really going to get in here and tweak the colors. And before I do that, I do want to go in here and spend a little bit of time dressing up the copy. And so I'm going to go over here where it says Lincoln High. I'm going to say East High, and we're not going to say athletics. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of athletics. So we'll go down here, get rid of that. So we'll just say East High School. And then where it says 20XX, I'm going to say join here, because this is going to be a sign. I'm going to print this on Coroplast. If you don't know what Coroplast is, it's kind of like a fluted plastic cardboard material that are used for signage, but are very familiar with 18 by 24 step stake yard signs. So that's what we're going to be designing this for. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to go down here and change Wildcat to Eagles. So proud to be an Eagle. And then I'm going to go in and manually color. And I could go and just globally change some colors. We could do that. And I think I'll start out there. I'll just take this color right here and globally change that to Blooded Gold, which is Pantone 123. Also on the green, that's down here on this darker green, I'm going to make that the gold. So now it's showing the colors that are included in the graphic. And then this lighter green, I'm actually going to make that kind of a medium gray. I guess it's a dark gray. There we go. We'll go in and independently color this text so I can get it dialed in exactly the way I want. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on Booster. And I'm going to change this to that blue. And this to that yellow. And since it's a tail design, we'll go and work on the tail as well. So this is going to become the blue. So I've got complete latitude for coloring it. I don't have to really select anything. It's just doing it automatically. This color right here, we're going to match that up with gold where it says club. So I'm going to go over here and make that white. Let's see, I don't really need the star. So one of the things I'm going to do in that tail where it has that star, I'm just going to turn that into the gold color. So we don't have the stars in there. Don't really need the stars. So looks good. On the ribbon part, I think I'm going to change that to navy. So I'm going to go and change that to navy. And I think at that point, the only thing we need to do is change the outline on the proud. So we'll go over here, change that outline to the blue. So there's my design. Probably going to print that on white on the Coroplast. You can leave it as a white background, or you can print the whole thing and make it a solid background. So I'm going to go ahead and save this design. And I'm going to save it in my East folder. And in my East folder, I do have a folder down here that's just saved as signage right there. And let's name it. So I'll call it East Boosters Registration Sign. So this is the sign that will be at the registration desk and will be in various points within the facility. And we're going to have our annual Booster Club get together in the fall. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then I'm going to go and continue customizing because I'm going to make a t-shirt version of that. And the only version that's going to be different is going to be where it says join here. We're going to get rid of that. Now, before I do that, I'm going to download a PDF file of this right here. And I'm also going to download a PNG file, PNG being a bitmap file, PDF being a fully editable vector file that I can edit in any vector graphics program, including a sign program or Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW, whatever your graphics application is of choice. So I'm going to say continue customizing. And what I'm going to do is where it says join here, I'm just going to turn that off and save this as a variation. And we'll just call this East Boosters t-shirt. And I'm going to keep that in that signage folder. So now we have two versions of the file. I'm going to download those as well. PNG, PDF. I've got all my files there. So at this point, if I wanted to get it in front of a customer, I could add it to an art approval. Now, this is really important as it pertains to all of our applications, including SignTracker, Printavo, and InkSoft. One of the things that's nice about GraphicsFlow is I can send artwork off to be approved without having to go in and put any pricing around it or any product around it. I can just send the art. Now, I can upload a virtual sample to GraphicsFlow and include that as well, but if I'm just trying to get artwork in front of somebody and I want them to fall in love with the art before we start getting into pricing, I can do that. And all of our other platforms, if we need to get something in front of somebody, it's got to be attached to product, which means it has to be attached to a pricing. So we can have an independent process for processing the art approval from the actual quote that has money stuff and product stuff on it. So if I wanted to add this to an art approval, I would just go over here. I already had one that I set up before. It's East Boosters Registration. I already added the sign to that a little bit earlier. And here is my version that has the t-shirt and says t-shirt. And we'll change this to say sign. And if we want, we can put that on a white background, which I think will look good. So we'll just go in the upper left corner here. That'll be on white. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Little background, put that on white. And I can put any notes in here that I want to have the customer see. So we can have all those notes. And we can put a comment in here or description that says, here's the t-shirt concept. And then we can put a note in here. It says registration table sign concept right there. And so when the customer gets this, they can either approve it or reject it. If they approve this one right here, and maybe they reject this one right here, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to get a notice because there's a history being tracked in here. I'm going to get an email notification that says this has been approved or rejected. And then what I can do on this file is I can go back and add another variation. So if I want to do a new version over here and maybe they just didn't like the way it was colored, what we can do is we can add that version. So if I click into this design again and I want to re-edit and maybe we want to change, the stripes right here into gray, I would just go in here, click on this, make that gray, hit apply, hit continue. And then I can either directly add this to my art approval or I can save it to my art and then go and add it that way. But I'm actually just going to directly add it to my art approval. I'm just going to go over here and we're going to add that to art approval and I'm going to rename it V2. And we'll go ahead and name it V2. And here's the version that we've got going on right here. So we've got multiple versions. Now, thing is, I could have added this as a variation. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one right here. And I'm going to save that down to my art real quick. So we're going to go ahead and save it. And I'm going to give it a little deletion button here. And I'm going to show you another way of doing this. So we'll add a new version, and I'm just going to go to my art, and I stuck it in here. So it's probably going to be right there. It is. Hit add. And so now we have what's called version control. So we have the rejected version and the new version. And so the customer has a choice of approving or rejecting. So if they like this one, they could go over here and say, hey, this is the one I like. And then they can just go ahead and hit approve and put any notes they want. They have to click through your disclaimer, and that's approved. So that's the way you do variations, and that's the new version control feature. So how does this correlate to, let's say, we'll start with SignTracker. Well, I'll show you. We have that artwork saved. The artwork's been approved. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to build what we would call an estimate in SignTracker. And so when I load up SignTracker, I'm going to land on the dashboard, and you're going to see all these helpful training resources that are built right in the dashboard. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and attach an estimate to a contact. And so I'm going to go into my contacts, and I'm going to find Allison from Allison Design. There's Allison. I'm going to click on her contact record. There's all our information on all the other people that work for Allison. And I'm going to say add job. So we're just going to add a job, and we'll call this East Boosters Back to School Event. There you go. And then we'll just say this is t-shirts and signs for back to school event. And then what we're going to do, we have the address down here, phone number, all of Allison's information. She's a jobber, so we're doing this on her behalf, and then she's actually going to build this and send this to the school. I'm going to make a notation of that. This is a product, not a service. The manager for this is going to be Brooke. She's going to be managing this particular job in production. And then Joe's salesperson, he'd like to be attached to that because he wants to be copied and being able to kind of track this order as it sells through production. And then this is a rush order, so it's actually due on Mondays. So we're going to put that in for Monday. And then I'll just put Allie go pick up at the shop because she's going to go and drop it off to them. So we're just going to hit submit. And we created a job. So in SignTracker, a job is, think of it as like a digital filing cabinet. So everything that's associated with that job is in one place, including any kind of tasks. Because this is going to be a coroplast, I can go and add a task for that. But first thing I want to do is I want to set up a contract. This is my estimate. This is my quote. And we're going to go down here to contracts. We're going to say new contract. And then I'm going to use a template. So I've got all these templates set up in the platform, and the one I'm interested in is this coroplast template. So we're going to set that up. We'll do 1 by 1.5, and the print's 1 by 1.5. It's going to be double-sided, so I'm going to put the second side in there. And it's a formula item, so it's using a pricing grid just like InkSoft and Printavo does. I've got a single one here, but I could add a second one that has a directional arrow on it if I wanted to. And I could also override this. If I wanted to go and input in a huge quantity of, maybe put 20 of these here, you're seeing the quote change over there as we go, which means we're going to need to have 40 prints. Any kind of special details, if I'm going to charge any kind of fees in here, I can add that. It's got my labor rate in here, so it's using that to calculate the price. And if I have any upcharges, I have a sales commission apply to this at 10%. If I wanted to give them a discount, this is where I could apply a discount level to it. Kind of any extra, fees, charges, all my tax information, all that stuff. Got that saved. So this is a worksheet. And so think about it like this. That quoting worksheet can be in here 5 different times with different signs, all within the same job. So this job had the t-shirts on it. I could put the t-shirts in here too. I've got the ability to have one job that has the vehicle wrap, the banners, the t-shirts all within one job. But the thing about SignTracker, you'll see here in a second, it really is tuned towards signage. And we can go ahead and close out of here. And this is going to be on my job flow board as what we call an opportunity. We haven't done anything with it yet. That hasn't been sent off, hasn't been approved. It's just sitting here as an opportunity. I can go back and click into that job anytime I want. Now, I'm back in the job. So one thing I probably want to do is attach the art. And I'm going to attach the art in 2 formats. I'm going to attach the artwork in a PNG format, and I'm also going to attach it in a PDF. For printing, we probably want to use that PDF file if we're going to be doing printing, because the PDF file is the original vector artwork. which is going to be pretty handy. So here's your PDF, and notice it's being viewed right in Adobe Acrobat, which is nice. It's embedded into the app. And then you also have the PNG file. This is a little bit lower resolution, but the nice thing about SignTracker is it can handle a lot of different formats. So it can create previews of a wide variety of formats, very similar to GraphicsFlow, although the one format it can't preview is CorelDRAW files, which is a format that GraphicsFlow can. So I've got my file attachment. I have my contract. That contract has a singular worksheet, and here's my worksheet. I can go and add another worksheet if I want to. I've got business forms in here and sign templates. But basically, this is how I'm going to process this. And what I want to do is generate a contract from this worksheet real quick. And this is what we're going to send to the customer. So you guys see this little customer link over here? I can go ahead and click on that. And then they're going to click on this. They're going to hit sign and approve. So Eddie's going to sign off on that. Look, it was going to him. Normally, I think this would be going to Allison because she's a jobber. But there's a little work order. It has all the details on that. And that work order, I don't have to show line item detail beyond just the price. But I can, if I choose to, I can show all the itemized costs, how I got to that price. It's kind of up to me how I do that. And I can hide it. I can also print a work order here as well. So that's the basic workflow. So how is a GraphicsFlow user going to utilize SignTracker and GraphicsFlow together? They're going to use it to create great looking signs and banners and decals and stickers and all those wonderful things, because within the GraphicsFlow application, you just have a massive variety of content that can be used for signage. And one of the things that's really nice about it, that content is all vector, so it scales. So if I'm doing grad banners, it's all scalable. I can resize the shape of this background box in my sign making or my graphics program, and it's going to be perfect for a 3x6 banner or a 2x8. It's up to me. So you've got all that flexibility, all those great starting points. And also you have all these wonderful fonts. So even to the level of a lot of these like chisel type fonts and things that you see, the sign makers, those are built right into GraphicsFlow. You get those. You don't have to buy separate chisel fonts. This is a very common use case for signage, is these fonts that they stack on top of each other and they give you this look of having layers on them. So in this case, this font right here would stack on top of this one, and then this would be one color, this would be another color. Works really great. Now, also, if you go to clip art, and you have all these sign design elements in here, which is wonderful, but if you go to clip art and you type in backgrounds, you've got just a crazy number of backgrounds and that you can use for signage. And as you start going through these, you can see some of these are photorealistic. That's a vector file, but that's photorealistic. It's done with mesh fills and lens effects and things of that nature. So these are absolutely fabulous for creating backgrounds for banners. What's interesting about these is this background right here. This is in Illustrator, it's masked, but and that would also be the case in Photoshop. In CorelDRAW, that's power clipped. What does that mean? That means you can access the individual elements here and move them around. If I took that little circular element and moved it off the page, it would still show up as being cut off. And so you ungroup these and move them around, they're just going to stay within that container. In CorelDRAW, that would be called a power clip. In Illustrator, it would be called a mask. So you've got a lot of latitude in creating these. So there's just a tremendous amount of tools and design resources here. You can see 625 design elements. And sometimes you just need a good looking image of a welder, and you can type welding in there and you can have a welding image. So all that extra work you end up doing, trying to recreate artwork for customers that don't necessarily value your time and aren't going to be willing to pay you for art time. All of a sudden you can send them over to your art portal, say, hey, just give me some ideas. We'll assemble something for you. And with our graphics team, we'll get it back to you the next day. You're going to get a art approval. Just sign off on it. And once you do that, then we'll start on your quote. That would be a pretty typical workflow. So we've talked about SignTracker. Let's skip into Printavo and show you how a Printavo user would utilize that. I created a little quote here, and let me show you how I did that from scratch. SignTracker is really tuned to sign making. Printavo is really tuned to apparel decoration. And so it's a bit of a different workflow. And I'm going to follow the same workflow so you guys can kind of see some of the similarities and differences. I'm going to go to the account here, and I'm going to go to Eddie's account, and we're going to click on him. And there's all Eddie's information. There's all of his history of previous orders. That's also true in SignTracker. You can see all the history and pull up a previous order and clone it if you want to do that. But I'm just going to create a new quote. And this is going to be the t-shirt portion. And so I'm going to create a nickname, and I'll just say East Boosters event. And we'll just say 72 units. And this is due 7/9. If there's any customer notes I want to put in here, and put those in there. Please approve art by 7/6 EOD, end of date. And then over here, text client to remind them to approve art. I don't really have to do that because Printavo is going to do that for me anyways. If I have any tags over here, I can put in a tag. For instance, rush order. So that's a rush order, put a tag in there so I can do a quick search and find all my rush orders. But here's where GraphicsFlow comes in, because I'm going to go down here to production files, and I'm going to upload the PDF version of that file. So here is the version of the file. That's the PDF version. We're going to upload that. So now that is living and doing a ride along with this quote as it becomes an invoice and it cycles through production. That's also true of SignTracker. In SignTracker, it's a little different because you have that job that's a container that has all the art for that particular job. In SignTracker, it's just going to follow the quote. And this will eventually become an invoice, and we'll switch it over to an invoice in a second. But we've got that in there. We're going to do a DTF print on here, and I'm going to use the Gildan 2000 t-shirt. So we're tied into the SNS Activewear feed, formerly the Alpha feed and the SNS feed, but it's all one big feed now, SNS. And we're going to do that. We could have Sanmar in here too. That's connected as well. And then let's put our quantities in. There we go. And let's go ahead and add the imprint. So when I add the imprint, what I'm going to be doing is pricing it based on the imprint, because there's pricing rules and matrices built in here, kind of like formula items in SignTracker, same basic concept. And I'm going to do DTF, and I'm going to do a 12-inch by 12-inch DTF. My pricing is going to be based on the surface area. I'm also going to add a file for the mockup. So I'm going to add a PNG file for the mockup, and we're going to hit upload there. And then I'm going to go over here and hit done. And then to get my price, I'm just going to hit refresh pricing, and then we're going to round that up to $7.50. Why not? There we go. And let's create a mockup. I'm going to go over to my mockup creator. I already uploaded that piece of art. It's pulling the photography here from the SNS feed, and I'm just going to click on it and get it repositioned on here so it's nice and orderly. If this was an SVG file, I could actually recolor the images, kind of like how we do colorways and the Rapid Product Creator in InkSoft. But because this is a PNG file, I do have a tool to knock colors out. So if I click on this color erase here and I wanted to get rid of these whites and just have the background color come through, I have the ability to do that. There we go. And I'm going to save that mockup, and I'm going to go back to the quote. There we go. And we'll hit save and finish. Now, one thing I could do, I could copy and paste the link to the art approval in here and put a note in here that said, hey, there's your art approval in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit save and finish. Let's look this over. I've got all my dates in there. Yep, it's a rush order too. Customer has a view. When I send the quote out, this is what the customer is going to be looking at, this public invoice view. And if they click on that, they can get a close-up of the mock-up. And if they click on that, they can get a close-up of the art, which is really handy. So this is what they're going to be seeing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and send this out to them using automation. Everything in Printavo was automated, meaning if I change these statuses over here, they're going to fire things out. For instance, these statuses are all customized to my business, the way my business works. All my kind of phases of production are in here. It works the same way, and SignTracker has what we call production stages as well. And this is your normal journey of an order. Every order in my business goes through this journey. If I go over here and I click on quote, so we're going to go ahead and click on send quote approval. What it's going to do, it's going to send that to the customer, but it's also going to message them. And in this case, it sent them a text message, and it also send them an email. So they can go ahead and hit decline, approve, whatever. they go ahead and they get that public invoice view. They have the ability to approve it through their public invoice view. See how they just click on approve, and I'll approve it for them. So they've approved it, but some things happened over in Printavo, because when they approved it, it went in and said, hey, it's approved to change the status. See that? And then what it's doing is it says, hey, we're waiting for payment. Now, if I go and log a payment in here, or I can manually go in here and change this status, but if I log a payment, it's going to update that to say, hey, it's paid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this customer net 30 terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go move this into the art department. So I just moved it into the art department. The art department was tasked. And so I can have it automatically task somebody. I'm going to go ahead and have it task my artist. Elaine is going to go in here and she's going to complete her task. And then what she's going to do is she's going to move it in art approved. So that just created a whole bunch of other tasks over here. And she can go and check those off. When she checks off the last task for her part, notice it moved it into pre-production. So when it moved it into pre-production, now it put it on a scheduler. And so over here, all of this art is on the power scheduler. And these are all the little kind of micro steps required for DTF printing. And you notice none of this has gotten started yet, because we haven't either scheduled it, put minutes on it, or really thrown it on a calendar. So this is just another view, and it's the side journey from here. So we're right here in production, but that side journey is right here. And when we're done with that side journey, we're going to mark it production complete. So this is all the little steps for DTF. Now, because this is a DTF file, it's going to go and be shown in the power scheduler. So I come over here and I go to the power scheduler. Let's go over and look at all my unscheduled jobs for DTF. Anything that's DTF that's unscheduled is going to show up over in here. And so I could find the job. So here it is. I put it onto my Mamaki printer. It's the only printer I have. 72 units. So I'm going to say it's going to take about 200 minutes to run that. And we got to get it out by the 9th, right? So we're going to have to come in on Sunday to run it. So we've got it scheduled on Sunday to run. Once we throw it onto a date, what's going to happen is you have these different views. So like we have list views, so we can see all the different parts and pieces where it's going. So that's kind of the journey of the order in Printavo in terms of, getting the artwork uploaded. We use the artwork from GraphicsFlow in two general areas. We used it to upload the production file that travels with the file itself. And then we also utilized it for the mockup. We use the PNG file for the mockup. We use the PDF, which is the production file. And you can have multiple production files attached. You could have one that's maybe the color separations, and one that's the raw source artwork, and one that's the pre-production proofed file. They all travel with the art. Let's skip over to InkSoft. And I just want to show you some of the things that we did with this particular store that pertain to GraphicsFlow. So this is a store that we've kind of maxed out GraphicsFlow usage. And I'm going to point out all the different ways that we utilized GraphicsFlow within this store. This is a GraphicsFlow design template that I used for the store logo. This eagle here is from GraphicsFlow, and that's the store icon that's showing up here in the tab. So I went ahead and uploaded that. I'm going to go over to store admin so you can kind of see where I did that. So under store branding, I uploaded that, and that's both from GraphicsFlow. This is text that I created in GraphicsFlow that I copied into this photo. There's another banner right here. That's from GraphicsFlow. So that's just straight up grad banner that I edited in GraphicsFlow, and I have this set up on a rotation, kind of scrolling on down here. This mockup, that's from GraphicsFlow. All these files are from GraphicsFlow, and these are a little different because they're interactive. So if I click on these, I actually went in and loaded these into the InkSoft Designer. The easiest way to do this is just to log into your InkSoft account, import the PDF file of the artwork from GraphicsFlow. Make sure any part that you're going to replace with live text is omitted. So mute that in GraphicsFlow. So when this came in, there was no insert sport. So what I did is I just typed in insert sport and put it in here, and I saved it. When I save it, it goes into admin created files in the art management section of InkSoft. And then what I did is I grabbed the sharing link right here. So I grabbed that sharing link and I copied that into a little notepad file so I could remember it. I went and just clicked on it and I screen grabbed this. I just took a screen grab of this and saved it as a PNG file. Back to the original file, what is going on there? It's pretty straightforward. This is a content block, has 3 images in it. If I go down to Style Editor in InkSoft and I go to Manage Content, this is the HTML code for that. So it's created this HTML code. But all I did is I typed in this text here, I imported the image, and then I just attached the URL for that share link to here. So when you click on this image, it just goes to that share link in InkSoft. And that is tied to this account because I created that particular shirt in this store. So you've got to create the shirt in the store that you want it to be located in. Customer has the ability to click on any of these shirts and just immediately go to edit the file. And let's kind of go back here to store preview mode, and I'll show you kind of some of the examples we did. So this is just another version of it. This could be a decal. It could be on a magnetic sign going on a piece of equipment, like the little golf cart the athletic director rides around on the field in. What makes it a t-shirt graphic is that it's pictured on a t-shirt. That could also be on a hat. We could get a DTF transfer and press that onto a hat if we wanted to. Another implementation from GraphicsFlow is right here. Customize this t-shirt. So this is a GraphicsFlow template. Same idea. Imported the PDF, typed in the text, saved it, grabbed the link. But this one has a template that's just a name and number. So I just created that in InkSoft, and I used the same font from GraphicsFlow. Almost all of the GraphicsFlow fonts are also located in InkSoft. And if you want to kind of see where those are located, you start going into all these chiseled fonts. I'd say probably a good 75% of the GraphicsFlow fonts are in InkSoft. So that makes it nice and easy to match up fonts for different designs. Scrolling right down the line, I created some patches. So what I did is I took this file from GraphicsFlow, I imported it into my drawings embroidery software. It auto-converted. I didn't have the word here at all. I auto-converted it to embroidery. I tightened up the density of the patch a little bit. I exported 2 things, a DST file for production, and then I exported a PNG rendering file with the background knocked off. So when I created this, I just imported this patch, and then I typed in this text over here. Now, bear in mind, the text is not going to be embroidery text in it. I put a notation in the little sleeve saying that the final production is going to be embroidery. And if you want to sell embroidered patches, this is an absolutely wonderful way to do it. So let's go back, and I'll show you that little disclaimer I built. So here's the disclaimer. It says, click on the cap to customize the supported group. The lettering on the finished cap will be embroidered. So I did 3 different variations of there. I did leathered patches. Same thing. This is just a GraphicsFlow design. I colored it in colors that look like laser etched leather. Same exact idea. Basic GraphicsFlow templates. Now, I've had customers that have created template libraries in InkSoft that are more like placeholders that say top line of text, middle text, side text, number, and they save those, and then they offer those in their design templates. If I went over here and just said, add art, and I went over to my design ideas, I could have a category of templates. I think I have a decal category in here. Yeah, I do. There's some ideas. Signage templates. These are sign design templates. Same thing. I created the background layer in GraphicsFlow. The key to doing this, if you're going to do one of these editable sign templates in your sizes, you can't have multiple sizes in here, because if they change sizes, it will not display the image if you have multiple sizes. So if you had like a 12 by 12 and then a 24 by 18, this is going to open up as blank when you click on the sharing link. That's just something that we discovered. So you have to have one size only when you're clicking onto a sign product. This is a name droppable grad sign. And then we have a name droppable grad banner. So these are kind of like some of the ultimate things that you can do with the InkSoft Designer and GraphicsFlow art. And this is just a standard template from GraphicsFlow. I really didn't do all that much to customize it. I did move some things around a little bit, but the only thing I really in here that's customizable is student name. The other thing I did here is I limited the color palette in this particular instance of the designer to just the colors for the school. I created a laser engraved tumbler Not real hard to do. I just made this a one color graphic and made it a color that would look like it was laser etched. If the customer wants to delete that and add their own logo, they can do that as well. Over here, under more, I created a place where they can order decals. And so you remember those decal templates I was showing you before? They're all right here. This one, you can change the clip art out. You can go in and put a new clip art in here. You can change all of the text values in here. You have a tremendous amount of latitude in tweaking out this decal. If you're not already selling decals, you need to be selling decals. You don't need to make them yourself. There's quite a few companies that will print them for you. You basically set up this store as a do-it-all store. We've embedded the GraphicsFlow art portal into this store. My version of the art portal in GraphicsFlow, I configured so I can showcase my own art, not just the art that's in GraphicsFlow. And I'm going to show you how to do that. The first thing you're landing on here is my art, but all the rest of the GraphicsFlow art is in here as well. The customer can land on art that's just personalized to them already for that particular market, or like let's say it's a specific vertical market like cars, or let's say it's specific to just sports artwork. You can curate all your own art that you save in GraphicsFlow and have it be available in your art portal. Now, what's cool about these is I've already loaded a whole bunch of these templates into the InkSoft Designer as well. So if I go to Browse Design Ideas, there's an East Eagles category, but I have all these East Eagles designs in here as well. That's basically kind of the ultimate usage of InkSoft and GraphicsFlow together. The process of taking a GraphicsFlow design template and making it editable in InkSoft is just replacing the text. All you're doing, taking all the parts that you don't want to change, bringing them in as a PDF, and then the parts you just want to change, just reset them with the same font in InkSoft and save it. There's nothing more to it. It's just a very productive, unique way to separate yourself from the competition, because I guarantee you, your competition isn't doing anything like this. And if you're competing at a macro level against bigger national companies that have very sophisticated technology suites and lots of financial resources and advertising budget, they're not even able to do this. This is something as an InkSoft user that you have that's unique to you. If you go to the YouTube channel and you go into the best practices playlist for InkSoft or the InkSoft Academy and watch the webinar on the designer, shows you how to do all of this step by step by step. I was going to show you how to configure your GraphicsFlow art portal. I'm back to GraphicsFlow. I'm going to go to art portal. Now, there's two parts to GraphicsFlow art portal. This is the standalone part that has its own URL. In the case of my portal, I've redirected it to craigmertens.com, so I don't have to see this kind of random looking URL here. So you can take this page and this URL and redirect it to any URL you want. This is if you want to have a standalone art portal or just send this link out to a customer. So that's way number one. And way number two is using embed code. If I go into the art portal and I scroll all the way down to the bottom, here's embed code, and back in my InkSoft store, if I go to that component, I can go ahead and paste in the embed code into that component. So what I have to do is I have to switch over to that page, get that all set up. I just have it saying view designs. One of the things that we can also do is highly customize this portal. All of this stuff is the colors and the layout and the logo for that standalone portal. So it's really not going to impact what it looks like in InkSoft. What I can do in my portal is I can add custom fields. So I've got custom fields here for the form when they submit art. I can enable the upload art button, which is really handy if they have a specific piece of art for that design template and they want to include their logo or their school mascot. I can add other links. So I've added all these other links that are basically art approvals that have different showcases of art. And then over here, my art section name, I called it featured designs. These are my designs. They're automatically set up to show first. What I can do is I can click this button and then the stock art that's already built into GraphicsFlow is going to show up first. But with this unchecked, it's going to land on my art. So that's how that works. And then disable my art assets in the portal. I could just turn my stuff off just by clicking that. That just shuts it off if I don't want to display that. And I can set up my default categories. I have it landing on sports. Same thing for clip art. I can show fonts or not show fonts, up to me. I'm showing the fonts. There's just a tremendous amount of customization in here. And there's where you add custom fields. And then I've got all the notifications going to me but they could go to anybody on my team. And there's the aesthetic settings. And then for the standalone portal, here's what you would type in for your header text and the description. And then again, there's your embed code. You've got a crazy amount of latitude. Now, the thing that's tricky is you have to be disciplined about getting your customers to use it. I think in a sense, a lot of times we enable end users because we don't have that conversation with them. That's, hey, listen, if you guys keep sending me this screen grab art that you pull off of XYZ website and I have to keep recreating that, I have to charge you for that. I can waive that if you get to, 150 pieces, but on these small orders, I have to charge you for that. But if you go to my art portal and you just pick something out and you go in there and you give me kind of an idea of what you're looking at and submit that, I can have something like that back to you the same day. And I have to charge you an art fee. And you're probably going to get a better design. In fact, I know you are. You're going to get something better than the artwork that you're grabbing off these other websites, which A, doesn't look as cool as this, and B, is not production friendly. So that's just kind of holding up your order and causing me a headache. So I'll give you two choices. You can go to my art portal and you have all this wonderful art to choose from. Get me pointed in the right direction. I'll work my magic and come up with something awesome for you, or keep sending me these vague ideas and I have to build things through custom or screen captures. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to charge you for that. And we charge $75 an hour for art development. That includes one revision. Second revision is $75. So you're probably looking at a design like that, these custom designs, something like this, you're probably looking at around $150, where you could just click on that and hit submit, and I can have something back to you same day. The reason I'm going through that exercise is I wanted you guys to be aware that you have to set some boundaries with your customers. You don't want to create a situation where it's a barrier to doing business with somebody, but you do have an obligation, I think, in the interest of profitability and sanity, to have conversations around artwork. And it's just a simple conversation. It's like, I can do whatever you want, but if you want me to do this highly customized artwork, you either need to pay me for it. I have to have higher minimum order quantities. That's it. And everybody's in the same boat. That's why having tools like GraphicsFlow embedded into your website. So if you need to create that sign for that event for the Booster Club and a corresponding t-shirt, or maybe even a decal, or if you need to create a place where people can go and customize laser engraved patches, or they can go and customize a grad banner, you have all these tools to just make that art part easy for the customer. And you guys have heard me say this over and over and over again. You'll hear it one more time. The key to growing your business in the current economy and technology space we're in right now is making it easy for people to buy from you. If you make it easy for people to buy from you, your business will grow. You will retain your customers. But if you don't, there's all these other people out there that are making it easy for people to buy from them. Really dedicate yourself to making it easy for your customers to buy. And that artwork collaboration part and giving customers really good foundational starting points to build off of to create this really great looking customized art across signs and banners and decals and promotional products and all these neat things that you guys are decorating. That's going to give you a huge advantage in the marketplace. If you are using GraphicsFlow, now you see how beautifully it works with SignTracker and Printavo and InkSoft. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me, and we will see you on the next GraphicsFlow Academy.